Japan Makes Me Scared, a podcast to the chilling realm of Japanese horror stories. My name is Junpei, and I will invite you to the mysterious world of Kaiden, exploring spine-tingling experiences that have haunted Japan. Konbanwa minasan. Welcome back to another episode of Japan Makes Me Scared. I'm Junpei, your host, and I'm gonna share various horror and scary stories of Kaiden in this podcast. For those who've been listening to my podcast for some time, I know you might be like, what is going on? Just to clarify, if you're watching the video version of this episode on YouTube or Spotify, you're seeing the ugly face of mine on the screen. I haven't shown my face for all the time since started, but why suddenly now? Well, it's maybe because of my subconscious telling me to be an attention seeker, but I also thought with my face, I could simply be more casual and kind of feel closer to you guys watching here. And also, this episode is actually going to mark the 40th episode of my podcast, so I'm taking this milestone as a chance to try something new. Don't worry, this ugly face will just disappear soon after the intro, and you will see the cool images associated with today's story as usual. But it will still pop up sometimes, so bear with that a bit more. Coming to the main topic then, today's story is about a man who went into the deep mountain and saw something lurking there. Alright. Let's move on to the storytelling part. Episode 40, Yamanoke. In 2007, a post was made on the thread of Tuchan, the Japanese message board. It was from a guy who had a scary experience in the mountains with his daughter. From here, I will describe I as a guy for convenience. It was what happened a week ago. I took my daughter for a drive. We were going along a nice mountain road and had dinner at the drive-in on the way. It was going on like proper fun driving out there. But at some point, for no particular reason, I wanted to scare her, so I took an unpaved side road. My daughter was trying to stop me, but I was still joking around, so we kept going and going. Then, suddenly, the car engine stopped. We were deep in the mountains, so there was no mobile phone connection, and I didn't know anything about fixing cars. My daughter and I were at a complete loss. It had taken hours to walk to the drive-in where we had dinner, so we decided to stay in the car that night and walk to the drive-in the next morning. While we are in the car, it got cold and night fell. You know, you hear nothing in the mountains at night. Sometimes the wind blows, and the trees rustle, but that's it. In that condition, time went on, and my daughter fell asleep in the passenger seat. I also closed my eyes and thought I'd go to sleep too. But then, I heard something. Sou Metsu. Or it could be Sou Metsu? I wasn't quite sure, but anyway, it was repeating over and over again. At first, I kept my eyes closed, trying to convince myself it was just my imagination or something. But I felt the sound was getting closer and closer, and I couldn't resist opening my eyes. Then I saw something. Something white and fluffy approaching the car, moving in a crazy way. It was like a silhouette, without a head, and with one leg. I don't know if you've seen Ultraman, a famous superhero series in Japan. In that series, there's one of the monsters called Jamila, which is kind of monster without a head. It looked like the Jamila from Ultraman, coming towards me by jumping with one leg and waving its hands and shaking its body in a crazy way. I was so scared that I almost screamed. But for some reason, I was trying to be nice on the weird thing. That was like, I don't have to wake up and annoy my daughter sleeping next to me. So I couldn't scream or run away in the end. The white thing was getting closer and closer, but he seemed to be passing by it, although I kept hearing Sou Metsu as he passed by. The sound went away, and when I turned around, I didn't see him, so I was kind of relieved. I turned to look at my daughter. Then I noticed the white thing was outside the passenger window. And I looked closer, and I thought he didn't have a head earlier. But actually, he had a face on his chest. And he was kind of creepy smiling at me, with a horrible look on his face that I don't even want to remember. I was scared, but beyond that, I was rather angry that he got close to my daughter. So I shouted, "Just go away!" As soon as I shouted, the thing disappeared and my daughter jumped up. I thought she was startled awake by my yelling, so I tried to apologize to her. But she was mumbling like, I got it, I got it, I got it, I got it, I got it. I had a bad feeling about this, so I tried to get away from the location, and I started engine. Then the miracle happened, and I started this time. I hurried back the way we came. My daughter was still mumbling next to me. I wanted to get to a place with people as soon as possible, so I drove on and on. Then, finally, I saw the lights of a town. While I was a little relieved, I just noticed my daughter's mumbling changed. It was, I got it, I got it, I got it. But now it changed to Sou Metsu. And her face also looked like it wasn't her face. I thought this was an emergency, so although I felt hesitant because it was the middle of the night, I ran to a random temple nearby. It was the middle of the night, but there was a light on at the building next to the temple where monks lived. I pressed the chime, dragging my daughter with me. A man who looked like a monk came out, and before I said something, he saw my daughter and immediately said to me, "What have you done?" When I told him that we went into the mountain and saw a strange thing, he looked kind of disappointed and just said, "I'm sorry. I don't know if I can do something for this, but I'll do my best." And he started chanting a kind of mantra and banging on my daughter's shoulder and back. He asked us to stay the night, then we took the offer. The next morning, the monk said, "Your daughter seems to be possessed by Yamanoke." Yamanoke is something that lurks in the mountains and is said to possess women. Possession is kind of infectious, so if another woman is near the possessed one, Yamanoke will move to the other one. The monk also said, if the possession continued after 49 days, my daughter would stay like this for the rest of her life, and never come back to how she used to be. The monk continued saying he would take care of my daughter and try to get rid of Yamanoke. I called my wife his monk and managed her to at least believe that. Then we were told that my wife would not be able to see her daughter until Yamanoke is completely removed. It's been a week and my daughter is still with the monk. I go to check on her every day, but she doesn't seem to be my daughter anymore. 'Cause, she smiles at me with a creepy and malicious look in her eyes. I want her to be my daughter again as soon as possible. And just one advice: don't go to the mountains and joke around just for fun. Oh, Shimain, thank you very much for listening to the story. How'd you like it? I've got some points to discuss, so let's do some deep dive here. First, what could be Yamanoke? According to some people, they say it can be a yokai, a Japanese kind of monster creature. Yamanoke can be written in Japanese kanjis with Yama, which means mountain, and Ke, which means trench. This Ke is the same kanji that is used for yokai, so this theory sounds convincing to me. Also, there's already a yokai that matches some features of Yamanoke. That is Ippon Datara, which is one leg and usually inhabits the mountains. It is not completely sure if this Ippon Datara is the same as Yamanoke, but we can say there's a resemblance at least, right? And also, about the words Yamanoke was saying. Sou Metsu? What could be the meaning of them? It wasn't clear in the story as well, but some people also talk about the possible Japanese kanjis that can be used for each Sou Metsu. With those kanjis, ten can mean transfer, so could mean manipulation, and Metsu means destruction. It is actually what's happening throughout the story, isn't it? First, Yamanoke tries to possess the daughter, and after succeeded it, he manipulated her to do a creepy smile. And we don't know what happened afterwards, but considering that the monk said the person stays mad if Yamanoke possesses even after 49 days, the daughter could have been destroyed already, possibly. Anyway, I'm recording this episode at the beginning of October, and in Japan, autumn starts at this time of year. The weather is getting more comfortable, less heat and humidity, and it's the best season for mountain activities. Our family also likes camping, so we will be in the mountains as well for sure. However, we have to be aware that there is always this possibility of something lurking in the mountains of Japan, and some of them are kind of malicious and do harm to us. Anyway, do you have any theories on the stories as well? I've got a Discord channel where anybody can join and share thoughts and theories. Of course, I'll be there as well. I'm gonna leave the link in the description, so please join and enjoy the interaction if you would. Also, I've got my own website, japanmakesmescared.com, where you can find a transcription of the story, more detailed information about the episode topic that I couldn't get to in podcast, and more visual images related to the episode as well. To reach my website, you can simply type Japan Makes Me Scared in your browser, or check the link in the description. Just one more thing, this podcast, Japan Makes Me Scared, is available on almost all popular podcast platforms like Spotify, Apple, YouTube, or Amazon Music. Also, if you push the follow button on the app of your choice. First of all, for me, it'll be a huge support and motivation. And for you, you will not miss notification for future episodes. so please consider following my podcast as well. Alright, we're getting close to the end, so let me say one thing. Arigatou gozaimasu again for listening to my podcast, Japan Makes Me Scared, and sayonara for more chilled and fruits next time. Bye!